That's it. I thought that video was gonna be a lot crazier. I guess that's just our intro.
It's short and sweet, man. Short
Yeah.
and sweet.
Welcome everybody to our panel at New York Comic Con. Very excited. This is my first appearance at New York Comic Con. And my
Me
name is
too.
Yeah. Oh, is it? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
we've never gone. We should go
gotta
sometime.
go.
Once this is all over.
Wait, hold on. Let me.
Me too. Yeah. Are you like recording us?
No. I have the YouTube stream on, and it's delayed.
Oh, I see. Because you need to look at yourself multiple times. That's why.
Well,
sorry, I shouldn't have interrupted you. You should finish your.
Well, now that you interrupted me, you don't get an introduction. So my name is Thien Pham. I'm a teacher and a graphic novelist. And I am privileged here today to moderate this panel with one of my very best friends and one of the best cartoonists and writer and I think even artist in comics. His name is Gene Luen Yang. And we're just going to go ahead today. We're just going to be, say hi, Gene.
What's up, guys? I have to tell you, like, it would be great if you said that kind of stuff when we're just hanging out, as opposed to only when we're in situations like this.
No, yeah, I know. You just got to keep that inside and not say anything because you already have such a big head. Me and Gene were just talking about how we've never been to this comic convention. I mean, I've always wanted to go. I know.
Yeah.
Like, I always use you to get into different conventions, especially when I don't have tickets. And I know that I'm always like, Gene, let's go to New York Comic Con. And for some reason, we've never been.
I think it's because so Tin and I used to teach together. We used to teach at Bishop High School, which is actually the setting of one of my graphic novels, Dragon Hoops. That's why Tin is actually in this book.
Yeah,
and I think it's because it conflicts with the school year, right? It's like too hard to fly out there in the middle of the school year. Whereas like San Diego Con is in the middle of summer. So for teachers, at least, it's a little bit
I hear
easier.
that New York Comic Con is getting as big or bigger than Comic Con. I mean, it's like really a big deal.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
We're like behind the times.
I would love to see it in person, dude.
We're just old. Like we don't even know what's going on.
I thought we were going to get to the old part of the conversation, like towards the end.
No, it always starts off right off as being old. Hey, so obviously we're at this, we're in a crazy quarantine, and that's why we're doing this virtually. But it seems like like a lot of people are like quarantining and stuff. But it seems like you've been very, very busy during this quarantine.
Oh man. Yeah, it's because right at the beginning, so for Dragon Hoops, I had 2 books come out during quarantine. I did not mean for that to happen. It's because this book was actually supposed to come out in 2019, but I missed like a whole bunch of deadlines. Okay. And right at the beginning of, or in the middle of March, I was supposed to go on this book tour for Dragon Hoops. The publisher for Second Books had spent months and months and months planning it. And then it all kind of fell apart because, the world fell apart. And part of me, this might be like, a child of immigrants thing, but part of me felt really guilty about it. I was like, they put in all this work and now I can't do this book tour. I have to make up for it. So I've tried to do all this stuff online to make up for missing out on that book tour.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's how the quarantine started. I remember the exact day that the quarantine started was like the day after me and you had a conversation and you were about to go to a school in the Midwest.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
You're gonna talk, and you're like, I don't know. I think I maybe should cancel this book tour. I'm just a little stressed out by it. And I was like, don't worry about it.
You get the worst. This is the worst advice, bro.
Yeah. I was
the worst advice ever.
I was totally like, this virus is gonna blow over, man. It's no big deal, dude. Just go. You mean you work so hard on this book, and then like maybe 2 days later, my school was like, we're all going home, and I was like, "Oh crap!" maybe Gene was right.
I remember that time. So I was visiting your class. You teach a class at a local art college about comics, right? And we had spent like the whole evening talking about panel structure and transitions and all that kind of stuff. And then afterwards, I had a conversation with you and also with Jason Shiga, who's another cartoonist friend of ours. He did a book called Meanwhile. That's absolutely amazing. And if you read Meanwhile, Jason is actually like this math genius. So Jason broke down the math for me, and he's like, given the growth of this, the growth curve of this virus, it's going to be a really big deal. So I'm really glad I listened to Jason and not Tim.
Yeah, I was obviously wrong on this. So let's just kind of recap like the things that you have done that's been really amazing in this. I mean, first, so beginning of this quarantine, this book came out, right? Dragon Hoops, which is we'll talk about this more in a little bit, but it's like such an amazing book, right? And then you had Superman versus the Klan come out, right?
Yeah.
And this was like the collected of the 3 trades from DC, right? And then now you have your the first issue of your Shang-Chi series with Marvel.
Yeah, I have that here.
Oh, nice. That's beautiful. So,
thanks, dude. I didn't draw it, but I agree. It's super pretty.
You were also at the beginning of this quarantine working on the Terrifics, right?
I was, which was really fun. That was a really fun book. It's like Fantastic Four, but in the DC universe.
So, did you find that during the quarantine, like that it was easier to be productive and to do all these things at the same time, or was it more of a challenge?
No, dude, it was not easier. It was way harder because I have like my wife and I have 4 kids, and they were all at home. You know, I mean, we've been lucky. We've been really lucky. Both my wife and I can work at home, and everyone's been healthy. But in terms of work, at least, it's actually been kind of a struggle. It's been like, I mean, I don't have an office at my house because we have so many kids. They take up all the bedrooms, and I just have to like kind of sneak into my kids' bedrooms when they're not using it, or use like the dining table. Or we have a table in the backyard that I sometimes use to work. How about you? You've been the exact opposite during normal times.
We'll talk about that later. But I have seen your office. I've been to your house, and you maybe for the caliber of cartoonists that you are, like for professional cartoonists that's won awards and produced so many books. You have probably the saddest office staff studio of anybody I know. Like, I can't imagine like I don't know, Jeff Johns like writing his office can't be the kitchen table of his house while everyone is eating dinner. He's typing away on a script.
Yeah, I mean, I used to have like this workspace that I would go to, but then with quarantine, I can't go anymore. But it's just, I don't know. We have like 4 kids, you know.
Yeah.
They kept coming.
So let's talk a little about some of the books. Tell me about Superman Smashes the Klan and how that like came about. It's if people don't know, Gene just recently, I know Gene is too humble to say this, but Superman Smashes the Klan just won the Harvey Award this year for best graphic novel for young adults, right? Young adult and children.
Yeah.
Which is huge because the other nominees on the list were also really amazing.
It was awesome to be on that list with those people.
I honestly didn't think that you would win. I really was like, there's no way.
Me neither. Yeah, I mean, those books are amazing. It's like it's like a must-have for any library collection, right? Any school library should have the books.
Yeah. But this book is also it's not like it's terrible. It's like an amazing book as well. How did this book come about? Like, it's such an interesting and it like really just hit right at the right time in our country to have a book like this, especially for young adults. So how did this book come about?
Well, this I mean, it's a adaptation of this really famous story from the old Superman radio show. So back in the 1940s, Superman had the most popular radio show in America. In 1946, there was this storyline that aired. It was 16 episodes where Superman actually took on these, robed and hooded racists, and he was defending a Chinese American family. So that story was called The Clan of the Fiery Cross. It never got adapted to comics, and that's what this book is. It's me and Gurihiru, among the best artists in the business, adapting it to comics for the first time.
Why do you think they chose, back in the days, why do you think they chose an Asian American family?
Yeah, it's weird, right? Like, when I first read about the storyline, I mean, first of all, it made me kind of happy to see Chinese characters or Chinese American characters in a Superman story that dated back to the 1940s.
Yeah.
But I was also curious about that. It also seemed like, if you're going to write a story about the Klan, it didn't seem to me, at least, that Asian Americans would be like the most obvious target, right?
Okay.
But when I did some research, it turns out that, the Klan was formed right after the end of the Civil War. And their first targets were, of course, the newly freed African Americans. They're really worried that African Americans would be asking for equal rights and equal treatment. But then pretty soon after that, within just a few years, a West Coast Klan formed, and this I never learned about in history. And that Klan actually
the West Coast Avengers.
Yeah, except evil.
Yeah,
and all in the same uniform. But they targeted Chinese immigrant workers. They were worried that Chinese immigrants were going to be inspired by African Americans in the South and ask for the same sorts of things.
Yeah. I love this book. I thought it was great. But when you pitched this book, this is part of the young adult graphic novel line. At the time, it was called, was it Boom?
It was Zoom. Zoom. Yeah.
When you pitched this, were they just like awesome or?
Yeah, I mean, so I pitched it to Marie Javins and Bob Harris. We had breakfast together at a convention. I think it was like a book or a comic convention, and they're really supportive from the get-go. Marie's amazing. Marie ended up editing the book, and she's, so before I started working with her, I heard that she was one of the best in the business, and that's totally true. She's awesome. We were talking about what artist we wanted to use, and I suggested Gurihiru because I'd worked with them on the Avatar books, and Marie reached out. We were able to make it all fit together, and I was thrilled with the possibility of working with them again.
So this book you wrote, and then the art is, of course, gorgeous because
they did such a good job, right?
Beautiful. I'm amazed by the art because they sometimes do a couple books at the same time, and all the art is always amazing. I don't know.
What do you think that is, man? How come you think? How do you think they do it?
I don't know. I guess they work pretty hard, they're just very, very talented. But coming from this, where you just wrote. And then you had someone else illustrate. You also did this book where you both illustrated and wrote the story. So is that process like a lot harder or a lot easier working with another person?
It's way more time consuming to draw myself, dude. I mean, I'm not Gurihiru. I can't do that many pages in a single year. So it was just, I think I like drawing. I enjoy it. I'm just really slow at it. You know that. You make fun of me for being slow at it.
Yeah. Well, you're slow at everything. You're slow at writing and stuff like that too. But I feel like your writing has really gotten quicker as your drawing is still just as slow.
Yeah. I think working on superhero comics does force you to write quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love this book, but I got to tell you that, and maybe I'm just biased because I'm in it, and it's about the place that we both work together. But I really love Dragon Hoops, and it's one of the most, for me, I've always loved this book, and usually, you look to like these different events to get feedback on how other people like these books, like you'd go to like Comic-Con and you hear people talking about Dragon Hoops or whatever, and you're like, okay, Dragon Hoops is doing great. But because we didn't have any of that this year, it was hard to determine whether or not like people liked it or you know what I mean. So for me, I was like, wow, I love this book, and I really want a lot of people to love it, but is it doing okay? Do people like it? And the fact that you won the Book of the Year Harvey Award for Dragon Hoops was like very validating to me because I love this book, and I definitely think this is the Book of the Year. And so it was really great that like a bunch of people were like, yes, this book is great. And this book is super amazing. So like right now, this book stands at 400 pages. Tell me how this came about. There's no way that you planned on doing a 400 page
I did not.
graphic novel.
So Lark Pien, she's the colorist of the book. She's an amazing cartoonist in her own right. But because we're friends, she agreed to color this book. She and I, we talked about it while we're working on it. We're like, if we had known it'd get this complicated, would we have started this project? And both of us were like, nope, I don't think so. Because when I started this project, I proposed it as a 200-page book, and it's a nonfiction graphic novel. It's about a real life basketball team, the coaches and the players, people that you and I both know, right?
Yeah.
And originally, I was just planning on focusing on them, but then as I moved on with the project, I started getting interested in basketball history, so I incorporated some of that in there. And then at a critique group, they asked me to put more of myself in there. So in the one of the first drafts, I was only in the prologue and the epilogue.
Wow.
The advice I got from that critique group was to put more of me in there.
Yeah. I mean, this book, I was there during this season. So basically, so for people that haven't read the book or don't really know very much about it, it's basically Gene decided that he wanted to write a sort of like a true story. I don't know what you would even call this.
It's not like nonfiction. Yeah.
Nonfiction book where he would follow. It's almost like a documentary book, right? So where he would follow the basketball team at the high school that we worked at for an entire season. And just through sheer luck or sheer, I don't know, but it happened to be one of the craziest, most historic season in our school history, and made for an amazing story. And this, but like when we were there at the last game, I was very mad because you had somehow lucked your way into one of the craziest sports story, like underdog tale of all times. And I was very upset because I was like, oh, he doesn't even have, like this book kind of is just so amazing. And then, so like, how did it feel like when you started this book? Did you have some type of inkling that this was going to be a great season, or?
No. I mean, it was just, I was lucky. I think I was lucky, right? I mean, you were there. It was crazy. That whole year was a nutty year, right? And one of the games during that season was named the game of the decade.
Yeah.
Later by whatever the authority is over California high school sports.
Yes.
So I had just wanted to do I think the impetus of the book was I met Coach Lou. So you and I and Coach Lou, we'd all been on the same campus for decades, or for over a decade.
Over a decade, yeah.
But I didn't know him that well. Did you know him that well?
I did not. I mean, the only time that that I really talked to him before until then was like he would like basically make fun of us when we're in the lunchroom because teaching is very, people don't know this, but teaching is very similar to actually going to high school. All the jocks and the coaches and the PE teachers make fun of all the art nerds and computer nerds.
That's right.
So in the faculty room, it would be exactly the thing. So the only time that I really met him was when he was like, but when
he was shoving you aside so he could get to the
totally. When I was asking him how to shoot a basketball.
Yeah, but I got to know him, and I was like, this dude is super interesting. He's like one of the most interesting people I've ever met. And one of the things I found interesting about him is that despite first impressions, he's kind of a nerd. If you look at his like pictures from when he was in high school, he doesn't like he wears big glasses. He's just a like kind of a goofy looking dude, right? And I think as I got to know him, I kind of developed a connection with him. So we're still pretty good friends. But that convinced me to do the book. And then when I was following that season, things just got crazier and crazier as we went.
It's so good. I swear, if people are listening right now, if they haven't read Dragon Hoops, they need to get it, especially if they're a fan of Gene's other books like Superman versus the Klan, Boxers and Saints, American Born Chinese, and all those other amazing books that Gene has written, Avatar. I would really implore you to get Dragon Hoops. It's a great book. And so I think we're running. We have about 10 minutes left. I want you just to talk about your latest project really quick, and then we'll take some questions. How about that? So,
sure.
Shang-Chi just came out last Wednesday, right? It looks amazing. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet, but it looks amazing. The cover art, there's like 1,200 variants, right?
Like, I think it's a Marvel thing now. I think they do a whole bunch of variants for certain books.
Yeah.
Right.
So how is it? You haven't really worked with Marvel that often. You were mostly working with DC. How was it working with Marvel? And this has got to be the dream, right? For every Asian kid in comics, the dream has got to be to write Shang-Chi or to draw Shang-Chi. So
wait, were you a fan of Shang-Chi when you were a kid? Because I wasn't.
I wasn't either, because Shang-Chi was more popular in the 1970s.
Yeah.
Me and you are 1980s.
Like 80s kids.
Yeah. So when we were in the 80s, there were no stories for Shang-Chi.
And I felt like he was like kind of a stereotype, don't you think?
Yeah,
like he kind of talked like a fortune cookie and.
Yeah, but I think even in the 80s, we wouldn't have minded. We would have just been more excited that there was a character of Asian descent. You know what I mean? But I remember when I was a kid, I would be amazed. I would be excited about any character of Asian descent, whether it be like, who's that character on Super Friends, the tornado guy?
Oh, dude, Samurai.
Yeah, Samurai.
No, you were not excited about Samurai.
No
way.
For me, though, anytime there was an Asian character,
he didn't even wear pants.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
But that's how starved we were for any type of representation. Was like samurai, like just anybody. And I think maybe in my high school, I discovered Shang-Chi. He was in like a few things, and I was like, oh, like a Marvel team up or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, he's cool. And nowadays, though, I'm very aware of him, and I would definitely be super excited. That would be, So how did that come out?
I mean, I wasn't a fan. I definitely wasn't a fan. I think I went through a period when I wanted to stay away from Asian characters at the comic book shop, just because I felt like, I was a little embarrassed about my own cultural heritage. So to be the Asian kid to pick up the Asian comic, felt like I would be highlighting what made me different, right? And I had to kind of go through a process of accepting my culture before I started reading Shang-Chi comics. So after I started reading Shang-Chi, like I think I haven't read a ton. I read a little bit, but I think the Marvel Max one in the I think it was like late 90s or early 2000s. That was probably my very first Shang-Chi comic that I actually bought with my own money. But when this opportunity came about, Darren Shan, who's the editor of the book, asked me to pitch an idea for them. I did. They liked it enough to sign me up. And the reason I pitched was because I think he's like the most prominent Asian American character right now, at least in the superhero world, right? Because of that movie that's coming out. And I just thought, man, I wanted to be part of that conversation. But it's been a lot of fun, So the exterior, the cover is done by Jim Cheung, who is a legendary cartoonist. Right, a legendary illustrator, and the insides are done by DK Ruan and Philip Tan. So Philip and I had been friends for a little while. DK and I just met on the book, but they did a phenomenal job.
I mean, the opportunity, like I would relish like any opportunity, like, and I'm sure you would too, to rewrite some of these pretty stereotypical Asian characters with the mindset and the of now.
Yeah, right? Yeah, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make them three-dimensional, right?
Yeah, it's a great opportunity to basically you're rewriting some wrongs. You know what I mean? And
like we want to take. I mean, I feel like there are lots of things about the original Shang-Chi character that are appealing. Like, if you read those original comics, there's definitely a lot of problematic stuff in there. But the way they handle fight scenes and a lot of the layouts are incredibly creative. Yeah, and just the way they handle his physicality, I think was pretty awesome. And we want to retain that, but we also want him to come across as like a three-dimensional character.
Yeah, it's cool. Anyway, so we only have about 6 minutes left. So I'm going to ask you some of these questions almost in a rapid fire suggestion, okay? So I'm going to go very fast. Are you ready, Gene, for some questions?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. First question. Did your family love being in Dragon Hoops? What was their response?
My wife did not like being in Dragon Hoops. My wife is actually a very private person, and we had to have lots of conversations before I sent that book to the publishers. My kids, on the other hand, they really liked it. Like my youngest, she's 8 now. I asked her which of my books is her favorite. Well, first I asked her which book is her favorite, and she's like, all of Raina's. And I said, none of mine are her favorite. And she goes, nope. And then I asked, okay, so out of all the books that I did, which one's her favorite? And she said Dragon Hoops because she's in it.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. All right, here's the next question.
Kind of nice. It's also a little egotistical on her part.
No time to breathe. Here's your next question. Is there a comic artist that you would love to work with?
Well, Thien and I worked together already. We did a book called Level Up together years and years ago. And then we've done little projects here and there as well. But, I'd love to work with Gene Wang. She's
yeah.
Right? She's so good.
But I don't know if she'd like to work with you.
I know. I don't think she would want to work with me. Because I feel like she's one of those people who has so many stories of her own that she
yeah.
somebody else's. Yeah. But she's definitely somebody. And Art Adams. Did you see that Art Adams did
Art Adams
for Shang-Chi? When I saw that, it was on the internet. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that.
Oh man, that's
like my favorite.
That's I remember meeting him at a Comic-Con and being too starstruck to talk to him. To this day, I still have never talked to Art Adams because he's such a legend.
Yeah.
All right, here's the next question. Why do you think the Superman story hadn't been adapted into comics until now?
I don't know. I know for a fact that other creators had proposed to do it, throughout the decades. I'm not sure why DC Comics never greenlit any of those proposals.
Oh, okay. All right. Is there a comic artist? Is there a comic character that you would love to work with, DC or Marvel?
Yeah, DC. I used to say like the Fourth World guys. Like Mr. Miracle, but then Tom King's you can't beat that. That was
amazing, really good.
Amazing story. Yeah. So on the DC side, I don't know. I always have a soft spot for Robin.
Oh yeah,
Robin. And then on Marvel, it would be like maybe Jubilee or Nightcrawler.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, how about you? You have anyone?
Nightcrawler is the one that I'm always like, Nightcrawler, really? I want to work. I love the smaller characters that people forget about that I love as a kid. And that maybe like I used to remember for DC this character called he was like during the whole like Punisher era. There was a character named Vigilante.
I remember him.
Yeah, I just like I don't know why, but I really really liked him. And then on the Marvel side, I'll do anything for Marvel. But my love for Spider-Man, and I that would be I think that's the pinnacle of comics is writing or drawing Spider-Man. So yeah, and I also really love. Me and you both love the duel of the White Rabbit and the Toad Frog. And I also so there are a few characters I really love. Yeah. All right. We got only 2 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and fire the next questions here. We have some really cool questions here. Somebody wrote just a question was just how are you? How are you, Gene? Are you okay?
I'm doing okay. I mean, I feel like hanging in there like everybody else, right? Like the whole world is just hanging in there.
Yeah.
But in terms of hanging in there, I feel relatively lucky.
All right. So I'm gonna combine two comments here. Okay. One person said they loved your work on the Avatar series, and then someone asked, "Any chance you would return for more?"
Well, right now, Faith Erin Hicks is writing those books,
and
I think she's doing an awesome job. Right, she's doing an amazing job, and I've just been enjoying them as a fan. She has like a Katara as a pirate story coming up that I'm super excited about.
Yeah. Oh,
I think it'll be great. But I love that world. If I ever get a chance to work in it, I'll definitely say yes.
That's awesome. And then finally, the last question here. In some of your stories, like Boxing Saints, you started with a big idea or two and then developed the story and characters to explore with it. How do you make that transition? Maybe that's a little too long for here, but why don't you quickly say that?
I mean, I think so. I think generally I don't actually start like physically writing a book until I can hear a character's voice in my head. So I might think about like an idea or something, but unless I hear that character's voice in my head, I don't work on it. Yeah.
All right. We're at the end of the time. But I love this question, so I'm gonna risk getting yelled at by New York Comic Con and ask you this question. So, given today in the current situation of everything that's happening, do you think that you would have done American-born Chinese differently?
Well, I did talk about SARS just barely. I barely mentioned SARS in American-born Chinese because that was a thing when I was working on that book. But I think I probably would have to expand that more. Like it's just like a little one-off thing in a panel.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a bigger part of the story now. Like just, the whole association of Asians or Asian Americans with diseases. I think.
But but your main story would kind of still remain intact. Huh?
I think so.
All right. Well, Gene, this has been a quick but it's been so informative.
This is fun, dude. We should do this more often. I feel like I said, I feel like we're nicer to each other when we're in front of an audience.
Yeah, I mean, it would be better if our friendship only existed with a group of people walking around listening to us. I guess. But anyways, everybody out there, please, I mean, I'm not. Dragon Hoops is amazing. Pick that up if you have a chance. It's just one of the best comics that you will probably ever read. And you can share it with the family, which I think is an amazing. Same with Superman Smashes the Klan. Just an amazing take on an iconic character. And I think you can share that with the family as well. I'm going to pick up Shang-Chi right now, get prepared for the movie. I have already bought the action figure and all that. So I'm all psyched saying Shang-Chi. So I'm excited. Are you going to be in the movie?
No,
I saw that you're pumping weights. I was thinking you have a side role as like a no.
Yeah, like a thug or like a minion of one of the bad guys, like the strong man of the bad guy.
Yeah. All right, I guess you're not playing Shang-Chi. The movie world is gonna miss out on an amazing Gene Yang Shang-Chi.
Thanks.
Anything you have to say, plug before we get out of here?
I mean, the next issue of Shang-Chi is coming out in October, towards the end of October.
All right. If this was like the 80s, they could subscribe.
I know. It's too bad, huh?
Remember
too bad
that? You could subscribe.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
Box, send it in.
I never did it. Did you ever do it?
No way. I mean, I could not back then. I couldn't like. It was $12 for 12 comics. I mean, $12 was crazy back then.
It was huge.
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and
thank you everyone.
It's going well. Thank you, New York Comic Con, for having us, and hopefully you'll invite us back to the actual show, and then we can experience the actual Comic Con as well.
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.